Meditation has been around for centuries. Conversation about breathing deeply is everywhere as we navigate mental wellness and de-stressing our lives. What are the effects of deep breathing and the ability to calm and clear the mind? Debbie Rossi, our guest today, is a bioenergetic wellness facilitator, teacher trainer for Meditation Australia, and creator of the Intuitive Meditation program, which she offers at the Center for Intuitive Meditation. I first met Debbie when I discovered her meditation course and was able to push my envelope of exploration. Preferring to do moving meditation through Tai Chi, keeping me moving while calming my mind, I wasn't really one to do any kind of meditation. In fact, I found meditation to be kind of annoying. So sitting just wasn't for me. However, Debbie's approach to combine the benefits of the breath with the mindfulness of peace, joy, and gratitude began to open up a sense of well-being that mirrored what I felt in Tai Chi. Further, Debbie had combined her practice of meditation into her client sessions for well-being. Using muscle monitoring, she could gain feedback from the body about what kinds of de-stressing assistance would be helpful. And by introducing the meditation that was client-focused, she could provide a more personalized experience for health and well-being. She was speaking my language in bioenergetic wellness, and there was a deep power to bring the skills of meditation into one-on-one sessions, as well as for group gatherings and classes. Debbie inspired a new skill in me and a better approach in my wellness business. You're listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, and this is episode 5, Meditation and the Breath. As we begin our conversation today, I hope that you're experiencing the calm and centered feeling that Debbie Rossi inspires. I also hope that you have a cup of tea ready so you can benefit from a few minutes of personal time to really embrace this episode. Well, welcome to the show, Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you across the oceans, to the other side of the world. Thank you.
It's a small world now, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
As we begin each episode with exploring the calming power of tea and the opportunity to take a break to listen to the podcast, I'm wondering, what kind of mug have you chosen today, Deb, and what tea have you prepared?
Well, the mug that I have chosen is one of my favorite ones. It's one that I use every single day. It has a little bird picture in the middle of it. And it always reminds me, birds always remind me of flying high to see that greater picture of life. So some of the other mugs, there's a set of them and they come with different little animals there. So I always just look and I ponder and think, which one will I pick? And today I chose the bird. But the actual tea within my mug is a puka tea today, and it's called Feel New. And it's got one of my favorite spices in it called fennel and aniseed. I love the cleansing property of that and just helping to, I suppose, detox just gently within my body. I like to have this early in the morning, although it's almost lunchtime, but I like to have it in the morning just to start the day off. It's a little bit of a gentle detox to my body.
Beautiful. I love the bird is like just so tiny on the edge, on the inside lid. That's really neat. It gives you a smile as you go to sip. I've chosen.
It does. So when you sip it, you can see it.
Yep. I chose my Colton McDonnell pottery mug. This is actually a fiddler from the area, but he does pottery as well. And so it's got the Cape Breton Island logo on the front, which is not glazed. So I actually get to see or feel the clay. And then the glazing is blue, which gives me that feel of the ocean and the tranquility of the sea. And inside today, I chose one of the blends from our Intend to Radiate tea blends. And this one is Rising Tides. And this one comes with the intention that each sip brings a calm and a stress release with it. And I thought that seemed a little bit fitting today to talk about meditation.
Perfection. Nice.
So Debbie, do you want to share a little bit more about your background and what you do to assist people with their wellness?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been practicing in this field for almost 13 years now. I started studying bioenergetic wellness um, about 13 years ago, just after my last daughter was born. I've got 4 children. Um, and I went on that journey just to really find something for myself. I felt like everything, I mean, having 4 children in quite quick succession, I felt like I had almost lost myself within it all, within that role of mothering, because everything was all about the kids, as it should be at that time. But I felt like I needed something for myself, something that I could ground myself into. I went on the journey originally to really help one of my daughters because she suffered from continual headaches. That she was very young, about 3 or 4 years old, and she would get continual headaches. So I started on the journey a little bit for her as well. But then I really found the benefits for myself, and that just helped to fuel my journey. And I just wanted to know more and more. So I would go off every once a month for the weekend and study. So it was like my getaway from the 4 kids. My husband would look after the kids. And at the same time, I was developing myself and understanding myself and all those things around me, not only emotional things, but the physical things as well, the nutritional things that were activating me within and not helping me to be that best version of the mother that I had envisioned that I wanted to be. So it was a very personal journey in the beginning. And from there, not long after that, I began my meditation journey again, really. But I suppose meditation was more about me looking for that spiritual connection, trying to find that connection, that greater picture, I suppose, starting to really be able to understand what I believed in, what that bigger picture of my life was, rather than, again, because life was so busy in here in the house, just being able to see that bigger picture gave me such peace and understanding. So I went on a meditation journey, and I studied it for many years with a gorgeous lady here called Marg. I would go off every Wednesday night, again, a little bit of my sanity night. And I went on that, and I really found that, because for so long, I mean, especially when I was younger, I always felt that feeling of, I suppose, not being good enough. That space of wanting other people to like me and wanting to fit in. And I never really felt myself in that presence, because I had lost myself, and not only just in the mothering role, but also in all the people around me as well, because I tried so hard to fit in with somebody else that I didn't really have that full connection to myself. And that's really what the bioenergetic wellness and also the meditation journey took me on, to be able to understand who I am, what I am, and to almost, what I say is, following my heart's truth, following that space of my heart. And it's not just a journey that you take, that you do for your business or for your personal or for whatever relationship, or for being a mother or whatever. It actually begins to weave its thread through every area of your life. And it's so cool to be able to see that and to understand that. And it almost gives you that space of ownership and responsibility. And that's one thing that I'm really big on when I'm serving my clients, whether that be in a clinic setting or in a classroom setting, being able to offer them the invitation for them to take on that ownership, take on that self-responsibility for themselves, is so important, because we can get caught in that space of looking for that golden answer outside of ourselves, or that golden therapist or practitioner outside of ourselves, thinking that they have all of the answers, they can heal it, but it's all outside of ourselves. But one of my biggest beliefs is that true space of lasting healing, lasting knowing, lasting ownership actually comes when you take responsibility for yourself, and you take responsibility for your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, your past, your present, your future. You take responsibility, you take ownership for it all. And that then gives you that opportunity. And this is what I preach. And I use that word preach very lightly, because I don't preach at all to my clients or to my students, because I give them that opportunity for them to see it for themselves. I create a space where they can begin to understand it for themselves, first on that space of the theory and the understanding and the knowing to sort of settle the ego mind and the analytical mind. And then also the embodied experience is so important, because without that embodied experience, it just becomes words, and it becomes another thing that they have to do, another thing that they should do maybe one day in the future, or another thing that I suggested that they do. They don't own it. And that's why meditation, and the way that I work with meditation, gives people the opportunity to really know it and embody it for themselves, and then take that knowing and embodiment out into their everyday life, not just in that moment that they're with me.
It's really an amazing journey, because I think all of us come with that story of what we were looking for, what pain needed to disappear, what mechanical piece was not working for us. In my case, it was feet that ached so much I couldn't dance on them, and trying to be a dance teacher. And we go on this journey of discovery, and it's that piece that is giving us that pain or that angst that leads us into this incredible journey of discovery. And I just am just so touched by the weaving that you've described, because I think for a lot of mothers, you get lost in that whole process of being mom and meeting everybody's needs, and you're trying to know who you are, but then to find what it is that's going to allow you to find your way back to yourself is quite a journey. And as much as you started on it for your daughter, it became yours. It became part of your basis of your business. And yet it's, like you said, it weaves all the way through. That's why I find this work just so incredibly fascinating, the depths that it goes to.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that. And that's one of the many facets and the many joys and the many rainbows of the work that we work in, because, it shows up and it reflects in every area of our life. There is nothing that is untouched. And I love that. I love that joy and the understanding, the deepening that it brings.
Mm-hmm. And do you find in your day, it's not an effort for you to just stop and take those couple of deep breaths and then carry on? The weaving is in there, that it just happens for you?
I would love to say yes, every single day it is easy, because that's what I would really love to say. But the truth and the reality is that no, every single day, every single moment, it's a choice. It's a choice that I make. There could be something that's going on, and I think about something that's specifically going on with one of my daughters at the moment, and it can be very consuming, and all the emotion and the stories and the things that are around it, that swirl around it, can also have that same effect on me. I feel that swirling within me. And sometimes it's easy to get caught in that story. And I find I go into that, the pattern of those thoughts, whether it be that I'm not a good enough mother, or that I'm not whatever, I'm not this or I'm not that, whatever. We can all fill in those blanks, because we've all experienced that. And sometimes it's easy to be there, because that's almost that victim mode. And, we have to experience those moments as well, because, one of the biggest things that I talk about as well is that it's not a destination that we get to where we sit back, we sit with our cup of tea, we put our feet up, and we've mastered it all, nothing for life to ever affect us ever again. That's not the idea of the practice that we work in. The practice that we work in is very much about the journey. The journey becomes the destination. So it's about every single day making that choice to show up, to be present, and slow it down every single day. But there are some days that are harder than others, and some days I'll get caught up in the stories and I'll go off. And other days it's easier than others, that I come back and I can come back. But it takes practice. And the more times that you do it, and the more times that you experience that feeling, the easier it is to come back, the easier it is to connect. But it always starts with that choice, that one choice. And I know I posted the other day on my social media account, which I really love this little fact. We take over 23,000 breaths in one day. That's the average amount of breaths that we take in one day. So if you think about it, that's almost 23,000 choices that we have in one day to connect within, to connect into our breath. But sometimes life, the swirl of life, just takes over, and that's okay, because it's not about perfecting this art. It's about exploring it and playing with it and seeing where it shows up and how it shows up, and almost becoming that observer rather than that judgment or that critic of, oh God, I'm in the stories again. Oh my God, I'm in the anger, or I'm in the sadness, or I'm in the judgment, or whatever that may look like. Just keep having that choice to keep coming back, keep coming back. So yes, the long answer to your question, it's a choice every day I make to come back. And some days it's easier than others. Some moments it's easier than others. You get them all in one day, sometimes here with 4 kids and a husband and a dog and everything else. So yes, it's a choice.
It's really interesting thinking 23,000. It's like, okay, in those 23,000, could you choose one? Yeah. Makes that a simple choice. Yeah. I love that statistic.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit more about what happens to the body when we start doing the deep breathing that comes with meditation?
Yeah, so deep breathing, it's so cool to understand how it works and how it actually begins to affect our nervous system. Because when we think about our breath is an automatic response that happens automatically in our body. It helps to, I suppose, set the rhythm of our nervous system as well. It works very much in the space of, being an automatic response that our body continues to do. But then we also have that option and that choice to connect into it. So we begin to bring our focus onto it. So it no longer becomes automatic. We begin to tune into our bodies. And it's probably the only function within our bodies that we have that much tuning in to within our bodies. So it really is a beautiful way to begin to connect within. But if you think about the breath itself, so if we're thinking about the nervous system, we know we have the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is very much about the busyness, the going, the doing, the fight or flight of life. Whereas the parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite to that. It's the quiet, it's the calm, it's the reset. It's almost the healing space within our body. But often, because we live in a world that is very much about going, doing, being something, being somebody, we get caught up in the sympathetic nervous system. And here in that space, our breath will actually be quite shallow, quite often sometimes quite quick as well. And we don't connect into it. It just goes on automatic pilot. But when we make that choice to slow down our breath, and just by even doing some deep breathing, what we're actually doing is we're beginning to, and if you think about the parasympathetic nervous system, so that calm and that reset as just another muscle, it's not a muscle, but thinking of it as a muscle, the more you work a muscle within your body, then the more you actually begin to have more strength, more control, more power within that muscle. So your parasympathetic nervous system is exactly the same. So the more time that we delve and we spend in that space of tuning and toning and strengthening the parasympathetic nervous system, the stronger it becomes as itself, and the sympathetic nervous system becomes less important. Not that it's not important, because it is important to have those moments of doing. Our body needs that. It needs the equilibrium between both, because otherwise you don't want to be too relaxed and, chilling out and not doing anything. You need to have that life, that spark within you to be able to move forward. So when we think about slowing down our breath, it actually begins to activate that parasympathetic nervous system within us, which begins then to tune into, if you think about it, the breath, moving that oxygen through the body. It begins to access every cell within our body with that moment of slowing down, that moment of pause, that moment of reset, calm, healing into that space. So it really is cool when you think about it. Every little tiny cell within our body begins to activate and settle within ourselves. So it is the slowing down of the breath that is important. And if you think about, if you break the breath up, the inhalation can be more of an energetic, more of a heating area within of your body. So if you're wanting to bring more warmth or more heating or more energy into your body, then you would be focusing more on the inhalation and extending that inhalation. Whereas if you're wanting more cooling within your body and more calm, then it really is the exhalation that you begin to bring more elongation to. You begin to extend it out. And often sometimes, in a moment of panic or anxiety or stress, you hear that response, and it's a standard response: take a breath, take a deep breath in. But what we actually need to be saying in that space is, okay, let's just take a long breath out. Let's bring a sigh or a shh or a to that breath. Let's focus on that exhale and elongating that to begin to really settle and calm the body. And that's really through that vagus nerve that moves through our body, because that sits in the parasympathetic nervous system. And when we bring extension into our exhale, we're beginning to tone that. We're beginning to allow that to come to life, to really settle, to really bring us into that space of calm and reset. So it really is cool when you start to think about it, and when you understand it, and when you know how the breath works and how it affects us. Then we get to really begin to, I suppose, have more trust, and to be able to lean more into a breathing practice and understanding of it. It just doesn't mean, no longer is it just take a deep breath in. Well, what is that going to do? I need to understand what it's going to do for my body, to be able to believe it, to know it, to then allow it to be an embodied experience.
Wow. I hadn't actually thought about the out breath, but as you're saying that, the out breath gives you that little piece of space on the end that sometimes that in breath doesn't get, because it's almost like you catch the breath in, and so it doesn't have that same pause that it has at the end of the out breath. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for describing that. The heart connection can change our view of the world and relationships. Do you want to talk a little bit about the heart chakra and the heart connection?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've done some study with HeartMath Institute. They're an institute in America who have been studying the heart, and not only the physical heart, but also the energetic properties of the heart for over 20 years now. And I really lean into their understanding and their scientific research of the heart, because, for so many years we believed that our heart was just, the purpose was to just, pump the blood around the body. But really, if you let go of that physical idea of the heart, and you understand that our heart it's our connection, it is our connection to our highest consciousness. And I'll explain that in a moment, because our heart actually has the highest electromagnetic field in our whole bodies. And this is something that HeartMath Institute have proven. They've got so much research on their webpage and also in the courses. So jump on and have a look at it, because it's amazing. It's mind-blowing. But our heart has that highest, and that, think about our body and think about a huge donut around our heart space. This is that energetic field of our heart. And it is the only space in our body that has this huge energetic field around it. The rest of our body does have an energetic field, but this one protrudes out and expands out. And they do say up to about 3 feet. But the only reason why HeartMath Institute have said 3 feet is because that's all that their equipment can measure, which is really cool to think that they don't even know how big this donut, this energetic field around us, can actually expand out to. And this is where we lean into the space of quantum physics and understanding that, in this space of energy, there is no time or space. So that expansion of our heart field actually expands way further than what we can actually see, what we actually know around us. And it's beginning to understand that and see how that begins to play in our life, because HeartMath Institute have found that feelings of joy, gratitude, love, acceptance, higher vibrational feelings will actually expand out this energetic field around our heart even more. And then if you think about it on the opposite field, feelings of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, anger, sadness begins to contract this energetic field around us. So when we live in this space of these feelings of joy, gratitude, love, it begins to expand our field. And if you think about, coming back to that space of energy, that connection that we have, then what we're doing, the more we expand out, the more surface area that we have, then the more in tune that we have to our highest consciousness, our intuition, our inner knowing, or whatever word you want to give it in that space, because that is where our heart speaks its truth. But this space of our heart, and listening to it, and, it takes, I suppose, courage is one of the words that's coming to me now. Courage to, follow your heart's truth. And courage, I only learned this week, and it's a really cool fact, and it's something that's been squirming around in my head since I learned it this week. But the Latin word for courage originally came from the word cor, which in Latin means heart. So courage is actually the courage of the heart, not so much courage of our physical strength or the physicalness of us. So when we come back to that space of courage, listening to our heart's truth. So it takes courage to sit here and to be present within the gratitude, within the love, within the joy of our life in this moment, regardless of our external circumstances, regardless of what that swirl may be that's happening, or that's trying to, take away your attention and trying to, push you into, or, take you into or take you down a story or a drama. And it takes courage to pause, come into the breath, and then feel into those feelings. And from there, in that space, that expansion happens with ease. And they do say a Heart Math Institute, which is really, really cool, that if you spend 3 minutes in that space of your heart, then you'll have up to 6 hours of that improved bodily function within your whole body, within your whole energetic field. So it's not only in that moment, it's longer lasting. And the more you practice it, the more you feel it. It becomes a feeling, almost like one of my students described it as almost like a drug, that feeling, that energy that swifts over your body, and then you begin to feel into it. I mean, even if you are listening now and you put your hand on your heart and you think about one thing that brings you great gratitude, great joy, it's that feeling, that higher vibration that you begin to connect into. It's that expansiveness of the heart.
Just as you're saying that, and just putting the hand over the heart, just that moment is just so beautiful. And on the course I was taking today, they were talking about that's an immediate release of oxytocin, and there you are with your happiness right there, and just that moment of pause. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Exactly, because our heart produces.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your private practice and how you bring heart-centered awareness meditation and deep breathing into the time you spend with your clients?
Yeah, so depending on how I work, my private practice, I'll either do using it within my bioenergetic wellness sessions. I'll bring it in throughout the session, maybe through muscle monitoring to understand where I need to bring it in, what sort of a journey they need to go on. Is it just about the breath, or is it more about the heart, or is it more about, bringing in that connection to their highest consciousness, their intuition, and then bringing through a guided journey for them, maybe about a 5-minute or 7-minute journey, just for them to experience it. And often I will record that and give that to them to take home for their homework, for them to explore it, because it doesn't just happen in the clinic room, it happens in their everyday life. So bringing that home with them gives them an opportunity for them to really, I suppose, play with it and see how that comes and shows up in their everyday life. And again, the more you practice it, it's like a muscle. The more you practice it, the more that you gain from it, the more that you benefit from it. And I suppose as well, the biggest point here is that it's about also practicing what you preach, I think, because in this space, it is very much about an energetic paradigm that we work in, that we live in, that we delve in, that we play in, that we explore in. So it's very much about becoming that demonstration and that understanding of what it is that you're actually wanting your clients to explore or do. because it's almost like, you know, that old saying, the pot calling the kettle black. You can't, be asking them to do something if you're not willing to take it on board in your own life. So that's why very much, in all of my courses and in all of my client private sessions as well, it's very much about them understanding that it's, the demonstration that I bring to them and the ownership of it, not just in that time that I spend with them, but in every moment of my life, how I bring that thread into every area for them then to understand the experience more for themselves. It's really important that it's not just me sitting there preaching them and telling them that it should be this way, because it's incoherent if there's no follow through for myself. It's an energetic mismatch, and it doesn't work. It can work for a little while, but it's going to come down. It's going to fall down eventually, because it's about holding that energy, that vibration for yourself first and foremost, because we always are our own medicine. Our service is always our own medicine that we need in everything anyway. And we know that whatever we're going through personally, often we'll get a client or something in life to show up to, give us a deeper understanding of that. So it really is about becoming the demonstration for them to see it, for them to own it, for them to then demonstrate it in their own life.
It's so true, isn't it? And I love when I take a class or work on a concept, and then it'll be conversation after conversation, or the email comes in, or yes, you have 3 clients that week that all have something similar related to that particular topic. Serendipitously, the universe provides. It's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's perfection.
So do you have some stories maybe that you could share about some transformations that you've experienced? It could be within your life, but also just within what you've done with sessions with clients.
Well, I think one of the things that people talk about how, and I don't want to throw this word around, quite haphazardly, but how quite life-changing it can be when you actually meet yourself in your heart, about how it reaches every single area of your life, and how almost like when you begin to know something, it's really hard to unknow it. Then becomes, just flashing in your face. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of this, is that it becomes every area. It becomes so clear to you that it then begins to change. We see the world, and, for myself, if I'm to use myself as an example, for many years, I'm been married for 22 years this year. I've got a gorgeous husband, and when we first got married, he would say to me, he'd tell me he would love me, but I would never really own it or believe it. And I always used to say that he has his rose-colored glasses on. That was my little spiel that I would say to him whenever he would give me a compliment or say something along those lines. I would always think or say out loud, you've got your rose-colored glasses on. I never believed it for myself. I never understood it. I never knew what that would feel like, because I had never experienced it for myself. I'd never owned that love for myself. I never owned that acceptance of myself for me, not for anybody else around me. And I suppose, one of the things in this journey is that it really has taught me to love myself and to honor myself first and foremost in everything. And it's interesting because now our relationship has changed so much that, it's almost at a space, where we are here together, being seen exactly as we are, because I no longer have to, prove my love or prove that I'm a good wife or a good mother. It's just becoming a space of acceptance, because I have owned that within myself, and those rose-colored glasses are no longer there, because I think of that, and often sometimes we'll joke about that, because it was something really real at that time, but it's it's no longer there, because I can feel it, I can own it for myself, which is really cool. And it's just that space of self-love and self-acceptance, which makes a huge, huge difference in anybody's life.
It's beautiful. And it's interesting, because I just think, you know, our children are about the same age. You have some younger ones because you have 4. I only have 2. But I think about those first couple of years of marriage, and in fact, knowing ourselves. And when we were growing up, we weren't taught how to do that. And so to grow into it and to be so comfortable that you can just be, and the judgment is all gone. It's such a remarkable place to be able to possess that kind of command of life. And then to know that when you do stop to do the deep breathing, and you take the time to meditate or do the Tai Chi, or you're in your yoga, and you really are present for yourself. It's such a journey. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about that I might not have asked you about?
Yeah, I think it's really important that people find their groove and their rhythm with this, because, you know, I know in your beginning statement, you talked about how, you know, sitting still just wasn't for me, was one of the things that you said. And sitting still isn't for everybody, but finding your space of stillness, you know, intuitive meditation works really well for me, and for the people that I serve, because they come to me because they're attracted to that space. But finding your groove of how you can honor that stillness and that slowing down for yourself, whether that be in Tai Chi, or whether that be in yoga, or some people actually, you know, feel like, you know, being out in the garden, or you know, whatever that may look like for you. I suppose what I'm trying to say is that there is no perfect way to find that stillness, find that quiet in your life. And we're all unique, we're all different. And letting go of that idea of the perfectness of a meditation session is that you sit on a beautiful meditation cushion with your eyes closed, your legs crossed, you know, your hands in a perfect mudra, you know, and complete stillness around you, quiet around you. You have your candles lit, your crystals there, you know, that whole image that we often see, you know, the Instagram image of meditation, because that's really not what it's about at all. Like that external view, you know, whether it be the perfect cushion or the quiet house or the perfect conditions to meditate in, is never going to be attainable. We're never going to reach that. It's always something that's outside of ourselves again. But when we think about meditation, and whether that be a moving meditation or a sitting still meditation or a garden meditation or whatever that looks like, it really is when you go within, when you close your eyes and you let go of all of that around you, whatever is around you, whether it be a noise or whether it be, you know, rubbish on the floor or laundry that needs to be folded, and you close your eyes, you let go all of that, and you focus on your breath. You go within and you take that moment to find that slowness, that stillness, that softness within you, then that's the key. It's not to look like that perfect Instagram image of meditation, you know, and I say it in my courses, you know, the idea of meditation is not to be a monk sitting on the side of a mountain for hours and hours meditating, you know, because that's not what it's about. And interesting enough, you know, when I was on India 1 year ago today, I left. In India, I met one of those monks. His name was Baba. They call him Baba, which means, you know, wise. And he was chosen at quite a young age. And he is one of those monks who spends, you know, hours in the Himalayas just meditating. That's all that he does. And we were fortunate enough to meet him. It was like a huge deal. And you know, that's his journey in his life. And when we met him, going off on a different story, but when we met him, one of the things that he said, he looked at us and he was laughing, and we couldn't understand what he was saying. The translator with us said that he was laughing because he says that you all think that you have control over your lives, but you don't have any control. And he was laughing and laughing and laughing because he thought it was so funny that we thought we had control, but we had no control. But that's not the life that we've chosen. We haven't chosen that life where, we have perfect silence, where we have the perfect conditions to meditate. So when we let go of that idea of what it has to look like, we begin to play and explore of what we are and what it could look like for us. And we find our own groove within it. We find our own rhythm within it, which is so cool because it's going to be unique to everybody. And that's one of the things that I really like seeing people, is seeing where their uniqueness takes this journey, because there is no right or wrong. The idea is just slowing down and just going within, and that can look like anything.
Debbie, how can people find you? Do you want to share your site?
Yeah, my webpage is debbierossi.com.au. And on there it has all my information, all the different ways people can find me. Also on Instagram and Facebook, it is Center for Intuitive Meditation. But yeah, and or just reach out to me via my webpage on a contact form. I love connecting with people.
Beautiful. And then you have your own podcast as well. And I know you had a full season that is already posted. So you might, if you want to share where they can find your podcasts.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so it's now called As One Heart podcast. But my whole series with other bioenergetic wellness facilitators, which was 23 episodes, that was filmed over about a span of 2 years. And you were one of those guests, which was really glorious. But that is 23 episodes, and all of those episodes are downloadable from my webpage, from debbierossi.com.au, just on the podcast tab. And it's now evolved into the As One Heart podcast show. And that's where I'm sort of expanding more out, not away, but inclusive of everything, and expanding wider. So it's just interviewing people and having a chat with people who light my heart from many different areas and many different walks of life. And I've released one of those episodes with the glorious Dr. Ricky Jane Adams. And on Friday, I recorded my second episode with Tina Bruce. And we were talking a lot about Indigenous connections and things like that, connection to the land, which was really glorious. So that will be out in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wonderful. I look forward to that. That's great. Debbie, thank you so much for sharing your incredible gifts of wellness with us. And I wish you the very best. I know you're on Sunday and I'm on Saturday, so you're in our future. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Michelle. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you, and thank you for asking me to be on your podcast show. It's a real privilege. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So you've been listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, where we invite you to be more involved in your self-care and the power that you have to be well. As I try to include a little dancing with each episode, I encourage you to find a piece of music that reflects or brings you joy. One piece of music that I've been enjoying on my Spotify playlist for Chi integration is the Lakota Prayer by the Native American Meditations. It's a beautiful piece and it's done with a flute. For those who don't know the prayer, I thought I might say it now. So if you wish to put your hand on your heart and you sit back, take a nice deep breath, and then a slow breath out to find that space at the end of the breath. Here's the Lakota prayer. Teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so that I may enter my sacred space and love beyond my fear, and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. As you listen to inspiring music, you might want to take the time to add a scarf, maybe a rock, something you've picked up on your walks. maybe a fan to put in your hands, and move with the object in a way that opens your heart to the music. Feel the power of movement that opens you up with the expansion of the arms and the hips, and then bundles you in a hug as you close your arms around you. Let the dance of joy spring from you while you're centered and grounded in who you are. Thank you for listening. This is Be Well with Michelle Greenwell.